Good morning and welcome once again to the Kennebec Valley Chamber of Commerce Business Insider Breakfast. It's a real delight this morning to introduce Rick Dacri, who will talk about some management skills and opportunities. Rick Dacri is one of those rare individuals who can actually take difficult employee issues, sort through the complexities, and find good solutions for you and for others. He's the author of the book Uncomplicating Management. Focus on your stars and your company will soar. His book is available at the back of the room at the end of this session. Rick is the president and founder of Daiquiri Associates. He offers senior executives and managers the human relations expertise and hands-on skill they need to improve employee productivity and engagement, mitigate risk, and position their organizations for success. Rick has always brings to the table a practical approach, sound advice, and a sense of humor. He is a recognized national speaker, speaking frequently on management, organizational change, and human resources. He's a prolific writer, authoring over 100 articles for a number of business publications. Please join me in welcoming Rick Dacri.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you all for inviting me here. It's good to come up here. It was coming up from Kennebec. It was a pretty ride coming up, and it's always nice to be up here in this time of year. This morning we want to talk a little bit about making your job a little bit easier, making your job easier managing your people. And so that's what we really want to focus on today. I get to speak to literally hundreds of managers each year, and consistently I hear the same things when it comes to managing their people. That they seem to be spending, you seem to be spending, 90% of your time dealing with the bottom 10% of your workforce. Those people who are consistently unproductive, those people who give you all the headaches, those people who prevent you from achieving the kinds of things that you want to do in your business. That's crazy. Why are you doing that? Why are you spending so much time on the bottom 10% of your workforce? Think about that from the rest of your business. In no other aspect of your business would you spend 90% of your time trying to fix something that can't be fixed. In no aspect of your business would you neglect the parts of your business that make you the most money, that provide your customers the best service, that enrich your overall organization. Yet for some reason, when it comes to dealing with people, we spend our time on our problems and not taking care of the things that make all the difference in the world in our business. You need to change that paradigm. We need to be focusing, you need to be focusing on your star performers. You know who those are. Those are the people who make all your money. Those are the people who provide your customers the great service. They're the ones that are most productive. They're the ones that give you no headaches. And they're the ones we neglect. You need to change your focus away from your problems and focus on your star performers. It's the salesman who could sell air conditioners in Antarctica. It's the nurse who provides that good quality care. It's the clerk who smiles when your customers come in. And it's the night shift supervisor who makes your shift run and hum. That's where you should be spending your time. That's where you should be spending your focus. And frankly, that's where you should be lavishing those folks with all kinds of praise, attention, and money. So it's there that we're going to talk about today. That's the thrust of this morning's presentation, and frankly, the thrust of my book, Uncomplicating Management. So our agenda today is to figure out how to make your job easy, how to uncomplicate the art of managing people. That's what we want to do. what I hope to be able to do is outline kind of a blueprint for your success in doing this. I'm going to try to make it practical and easy to understand with lots of examples. And you're not going to hear from me any management gimmicks or fads or any of that. I want to give you some practical solutions on how to manage your people effectively. Because let's face it, managing people is hard. We're very good at what we do, what our business is. And it would be so much easier if those people part of it would be just as easy. But it's hard, and it doesn't have to be. It doesn't even have to be expensive in terms of doing it. It doesn't have to be the struggle that we sometimes run. You don't have to break the bank. So one of the problems that I find with managers as they're dealing with these kind of people-related issues is we complicate it. We make it really difficult for ourselves. So let's see, what are the things that I see? When I'm talking with managers, there's a certain pattern that often comes about that I see which makes their job so much harder. So I've outlined some of those for you, and let me give you 9 things. The first thing we do in terms of making our job so much more difficult in managing people is we make bad hires. It all begins at the hiring process. We hire our workers' comp problems. We hire our attendance issues. We hire our grievances. We hire our harassment and discrimination claims. That's what we do. When I first got into the business many years ago, I was talking to the then personnel manager. So you know how long ago that was. And we were standing in the lobby of the organization we were working on. And he was talking to me about the role of the personnel manager. He was a very wise individual. And we're seeing the people walking back and forth, and he was talking about the role of the hiring manager. And he said, Rick, one of the things you'll learn about our business of hiring people is as you look around at the people walking by, you get to see all the mistakes you hired. And that's what we do. We hire our mistakes. And we need to focus on that. I find within my practice that the hiring process is probably one of the most neglected processes. We find all the reasons in the world why we can't find good labor. They're not here in Maine. Nobody wants to work in Maine. Everybody has moved out of state. I can't find good quality people. Those are excuses. You need to focus and find the stars. They're out there. It takes work. And it all begins there. And so if we refocus our attention on the recruitment process, you'll see things change. The second thing we often do is we tolerate poor performance. We just let it happen. We kind of hope that they'll get better. I'm going to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, hope is a lousy business strategy. You need to address performance when it occurs. If they are performing poorly, you need to do something about it. Don't say, well, I'll show them at the time of the performance appraisal system. I'll make it clear to them then. That's not a good idea. To be able to store it up and wait for the time of the performance appraisal is equivalent to the mother saying to the child, wait till daddy gets home, we'll take care of it then. It's too late. Poor performance has to be addressed at the time it occurs in order to create change in the behavior that you're looking for. And so it has to occur at that point in time, not at the time of the performance appraisal. And in fact, I would suggest to you that you should take your performance appraisals and destroy them. Just take them up, throw them away, and get rid of them. Anyone who focuses on their performance appraisal system as a mechanism to change bad behavior defeats the purpose of a performance. Anyone who uses a performance appraisal system simply as a trigger mechanism to give a merit increase is missing the point. If you're going to use performance appraisals, then they should be strictly a developmental tool to change performance, to move individual behavior to a higher level of performance. That's when you have a performance appraisal system that works. That's the kind of system you want to have in place with that. The third thing we do is we keep our problem employees. Remember that hope thing? We kind of hope they'll get better. They don't seem to. But I sure don't want to get rid of them, because that's going to be hard. And frankly, in this litigious society, it is hard getting rid of your problem employees. But yet we have a tendency not to try to get rid of them. You kind of keep them on. With a little bit of luck, you got a big enough company, you can transfer them to somebody else. But that's what we do with our problem employees. Jack Welch, when he was running GE, was famous for saying he would cut the bottom 10% of his workforce every year. He got the nickname Neutron Jack. And people looked at him and said, my God, how can he be so ruthless? But think about what he did. He took the problem employees and he said, you can't fit in our organization, and he moved them out. Wouldn't you like to be doing the same thing? Wouldn't you like to be eliminating those people who are not contributing to your organization? Now, one of the things you don't hear about, which is what you really need to be doing, is taking those individuals in the organization and helping them to improve their performance so they aren't problems. And those who aren't performing, whether they can't perform or they choose not to perform, that's where we need to move them out. But one of the problems we have in doing that is a fear that we have, which is the fifth point, is as managers we like to avoid confrontation. There's nothing worse than that acid feeling in our stomachs when we have to deal with an employee issue. So everything else takes a priority rather than to deal with that. A lot of action does not take place. A lot of issues are not addressed because of the fear of confrontation that may occur. And so as managers, we have to realize that's our job. And those are the things we need to be doing. We also have a tendency to fear we're going to say the wrong things. I'm going to address this problem employee by saying the wrong things, and of course, a lawsuit will result. Now, it is important that you do say the right things. We have to understand that as managers, people are listening to everything we say and interpreting everything we say, so communication is so critical. But we can't operate with fear that something will happen. We also have a tendency to complicate things. We overthink it before we address it. And after we finish doing that, we've turned ourselves into such a pretzel that we can't make any kind of action. So simplify the process. The seventh point is we assume the worst. If I say something to them, they'll quit. The whole shift will probably walk out. The world will end if I do it. I better not do it. We can't operate assuming the worst because oftentimes, usually, it doesn't occur. I have never seen in my entire career an entire operation quit because of one single action of a manager. And so I wouldn't worry about that. But what happens is we get paralyzed out of fear, and we don't take that action. And the last point is we just don't make decisions. And you need to be focused on it. It takes a sense of courage. I was working with a municipality just a little south of here, where the new town manager had to make some tough decisions. Decisions that could disrupt his new community that he just entered, decisions that he wasn't sure the council would support, but decisions that had to be made. And when the council saw the essence of courage that he took, and when the employees saw how he acted, though not happy with necessarily the decisions he made, he gained this valuable support within there because what he did is he showed a true sense of leadership. And that's the key, or one of the very keys of managing people. So let's uncomplicate this management process. Let's make it simple for all of us. It's very simple. It's 3 steps. 1, take care of your star performance. We'll talk about how to do that. But that's the key. You need to identify, and I encourage all of you to be thinking about your organization. Who are your star performers? Identify them and take care of them. Get rid of the deadwood, The people who are not performing in your organization, commit to either improving their performance or getting rid of them so that they don't drag down. There's been consistent studies on that employees want you to take those actions. By vast majorities, they are hoping you take those actions. In those same studies, they say, but don't worry about it, my manager will never do it. You need to change that. And the third thing you need to do is coach and develop those good, steady performers. You can identify your workforce within those three groups, and you know where your attention has to be. Focus on the things that'll give you the biggest bang for your buck. Focus on your stars. Focus on raising the overall performance level of your organization and not coddling the bottom. And don't worry about these egalitarian notions that everyone should receive the same. That's wrong. Stars should get everything. Others should learn, if I become a star, then that's what I'll get, how I'll be treated too. And it encourages them to move forward. So that's what our approach is going to be, is how to focus on them. The easy process is simply, how do I do this? Well, the bottom line is simply this. You're the boss. It's right there. You're the boss. You make these kinds of decisions. Managers come up to me on a consistent basis and they say, Rick, what's the one tool I need to effectively manage my operation, to make it run? And so here's my advice. I'll share it with you. Find your local drugstore, enter that drugstore or department store, go down to the department that sells mirrors, pick up the mirror, look into the mirror and say to yourself, why isn't my department running well? Why am I having all these problems? Look in the mirror, there's your answer. It isn't the suits upstairs on the third floor